This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Tasmania feels like one of the most layered destinations in Australia. You've got dramatic coastlines, distinct wildlife, some wildlife that you'll see almost nowhere else in the world, incredible seafood, a serious art and culture scene in Hobart, a ton of road trips that you can do, and we're going to be talking about a lot of them today on today's episode about Tasmania. And I am joined, as I am almost always, by my good friend and world traveler, Tim Johnson. How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing very well, David. Great to see you again. It's been a little while, so it's fantastic to see your face, hear your voice, and talk about one of my favorite destinations anywhere on Earth.
It has been a minute. I've been down in LA and Montreal over the last couple of weeks, but you have been in much more exotic destinations. You've been cruising all over the place.
Yeah, I did 4 cruises in a row. So I cruised off the coast of West Africa and Cape Verde. I did the Douro River, and I know we're going to do an episode on Porto on the Douro River. And then I went around the boot in Italy, and then also did a Nile cruise in Egypt, which was absolutely super fascinating. So lots of travel, mostly kind of all in the same neighborhood, not too many different time zones, which is what I'm trying to do now, is kind of travel to nearby places that are nearby to other places, but really a fantastic string of cruises with Viking and Avalon and Variety. And now excited to talk about Tasmania, a destination that I've been to a couple times. I think really one of the most underrated destinations, perhaps the most underrated destination in Australia, because, people think Great Barrier Reef or Uluru or Sydney Harbor. Then you've got this island off the south coast of Australia that just really has so much to offer. And it still kind of has, even though it has amazing food and it's amazing hotels, it still feels a little bit undiscovered. So I was there for a couple of weeks back late last year, and I'd been on a previous trip there as well. So very excited to talk about Tasmania.
Yeah, for me, it was one of the first places that I made it to post-COVID when we went out to go do another world trip. We spent about a week and a half there. It is a place I would say a lot of people I think don't get there necessarily on their first trip to Australia. For a lot of people, Tasmania is probably your second trip, or if you're taking a dedicated trip to get there, because it does take a little more effort if you're coming in from around the world, but less effort than I thought, actually. Like flights out of Melbourne, if I remember correctly, I think we were flying for less than $100 person between Melbourne and Hobart. There's pretty inexpensive flights back and forth.
Yeah, and once you're in Australia, it's quite accessible, right? Direct flights to Hobart, you're not going to find a lot of them from North America, but once you get there, I flew from Brisbane. So I flew Toronto, Vancouver, Brisbane, Hobart, for sure, flights out of Sydney, Melbourne. So once you get into Australia, it's a great destination. If you've done Sydney Harbor, you've done the Opera House, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you've done the Great Barrier Reef. You're looking for some chill time. It's a very chill, kind of a little bit of a slower pace destination. It's not that far. Like you said, it's not that expensive. And then very, very well connected to the rest of Australia. So yeah, love it there.
It's quite different than the rest of Australia, too. I mean, I found a much more temperate climate. It reminded me more of New Zealand or of Vancouver Island. It felt closer, akin to that almost than it did to the rest of Australia.
Yeah, it did to meet you. And it also, like the friendliness, it reminded me of some places off the east coast of Canada. We're both Canadian. So maybe like Cape Breton Island or parts of Newfoundland, where it's smaller towns, friendly people. There's an openness to the people there, even in Hobart, even in the capital, that you may not get in some of the larger cities, where people are helpful and chatty and just have that true spirit of hospitality. And I found that this last trip was concentrated, at 3 places, 2 that I'm going to focus on today for my part, Hobart and Launceston. And in both places, Hobart's that's not a large city. It's like a medium-sized city, but again, very friendly there. And then Launceston, kind of cool place. Lots of cool experiences. But anyway, we're going to get to that. So what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about where to stay? Do you want to talk about what to do?
Why don't we, Hobart is probably the gateway that most people are going to get into to come into Tasmania. So why don't we start there and maybe get into a little bit about what there is to do in Hobart?
All right. So I went analog today. Listeners will probably hear me flipping pages. I didn't feel like being on my phone much today, so I went analog with.
You're in old school reporter mode today.
I got notes. I got a whole like these are my notes, right? They're actual notes, and so so Hobart. So I've got a couple of things for Hobart. I'm going to save my must do, which we do every episode. It's just outside of Hobart, and the two things that I've written down to do in Hobart are just outside of Hobart. So they're not in Hobart City. Most of my restaurants and my hotels are in Hobart, and it's a great place to base yourself. But Bruny Island, which is a short drive. It's a cool little ferry across there. It's beautiful. It has, these beautiful, beautiful long beaches. Even though it's close to the city, it feels like you're almost on a tropical island. You talked about that temperate climate, and there's just so much freshness. The focus there is on food, I would say. So we did, when I was there, we did a honey tasting. We did an amazing cheese tasting. I went to a cheesemaker. We did a wine tasting. There's some great wines in Tasmania, some of the best wines in the world, actually. And we did an olive oil, kind of a deep dive into an olive oil experience. So I went to a grove, saw the trees, and spoke with perhaps the person in the world who was most passionate about olive oil. Like this woman she knew everything there was to know about olive oil and was so passionate to share that with us. And we did an olive oil tasting. And again, all the different factors that go into how it's harvested and how it's aged, all that kind of thing. I learned a lot about olive oil. So Bruny Island, just outside of Hobart, just an easy hop to get there. And then the other Hobart activity that I have is to do a seafood cruise. Hobart is a city that is centered around a very active marina. This was actually on my previous visit to Tassie, and you can actually get on a boat and the captain takes you out and you're with a small group of people, maybe 8-10 people, something like that. And you go out and there's fish and seafood and so much that's just outside of the city. So you get a beautiful view of the city, you get the mountain in the background. And then in my case, it was the actual captain. I don't know if that's the case on all of them, but actually puts on a wetsuit and goes over the side and then comes up with all kinds of crustaceans off the seafloor. And we did sashimi style where they chop it up, they cook it up on the back. Talk about fresh seafood. And we talk about how much both of us love a good plate of fresh seafood. Having the captain bring it up, come back over the side, slice it up sashimi style, and do a little bit of seasoning and then serve it up. Really a truly amazing experience. It's kind of a full day cruise and you're eating the whole time that you're out there. You leave from Hobart and you return to Hobart. So if you're staying in one of the downtown hotels, and a couple of the hotels I'm going to recommend all right downtown, you can walk there in 5 minutes. So really a truly amazing experience. What about you?
Those both sound awesome. I'm disappointed I missed those. We should have talked before I went to Hobart. But I've got two good ones. I've got two big ones on the what to do front when it comes to Hobart. One that we really enjoyed. I always love going to a great farmers market, and I think Hobart's got one of the best in the world. It's called Salamanca Market. It happens every Saturday, 8 a.m. till 3, over 300 stalls. It's in this old historic warehouse district near the waterfront, old, sandstone warehouses that now host sort of galleries, shops, bars, restaurants. But the market itself, fantastic food. You had music. You had local authors there selling their books. The food is really great. And I think food is really a highlight in Tasmania. And Salamanca Market, I think, is a big driver for that. It's where a lot of producers from around the island come together. A lot of local chefs are there every Saturday morning getting kind of the freshest produce. So that was a highlight. So I would try and plan your trip around being in Hobart on a Saturday just to hit Salamanca Market if you could.
Yeah, and to add to that, Salamanca, it really is a great place any night of the week. Even if you're, just looking for a quick drink or you're looking for a quick little meal, there's, like you said, there's all those great little bars or restaurants. I think a lot of those buildings maybe you touched on this, former warehouses, that have been repurposed now. And it's just a cool place for a little walk around. But yeah, the farmer's market, we did have quick little tour. It was a busy day, but we did get a little look at the farmers market, and it looked amazing. So
The other one I'm going to mention is very much on the quirky attraction side of things. Probably the biggest, best known attraction in Hobart, and one of the reasons why the city kind of punches above its weight culturally. A place called Mona, the museum. I think it stands for Museum of New and Old, or Museum of Old and New.
yeah, that's
It's about 10 kilometers outside of kind of downtown. There's this really cool building architecturally, and there's always a lot going on outside of the, particularly on weekends. They've got bands playing, they've got food trucks. There's a lot happening around the museum itself, but museum doesn't quite describe it. It's much more of a modern art gallery, I would say. It was fully funded by and curated by a very quirky professional gambler / art collector / odd personality, a guy named David Walsh, who built out the museum. It indexes super high on the quirky scale. I mean, it's, if I remember correctly, I think it's built like an old bunker or something, but it's this super modern building. And once you get in there, I mean, just to give you a sense of some of the installations, a lot of very highly visual art installations, right? A lot of production art, a lot of super modern art. They had one installation when we were there where you went in and you were given this huge thing of rice. And if you agreed to come sit down in the exhibit, you had to stay there until you had individually counted each of the grains of rice. And then you were allowed to move on. And I did it. It drove my family crazy because I stayed there for about an hour and a half counting the grains of rice. I found it very meditative. I loved it. They thought it was nuts, but I love that exhibit. Then there was another exhibit there that they have a machine that I'm sure you remember this one, Tim. This is one of the most quirky ones that everybody talks about. A machine that essentially recreates human excrement. And
it's two that everyone always talks about. And I'm not going to pick the other one if you want to. You can, but let the other one be a surprise for people. But that is definitely one that I remember. So yeah.
Oh, I don't remember the other one.
It is. I'm just.
It's that bad that you won't even.
They have to go to Tasmania and they have to go to Mona, and then they'll figure out. They'll remember this podcast and they'll say, "I know what Tim was talking about." Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's provocative. It is unlike probably any other art museum that you have ever been to anywhere else in the world. So I think it's definitely worth seeing. It's not for everybody. I will say that.
Yeah, and I will add one quick point, and that is that I really loved Hobart and talked to lots of different people, from chefs and to artists, all kinds of different creative types. And a lot of them talked about the Mona effect. So the fact that, Hobart was a very nice has always been a very nice place, maybe a little bit out of the way. But once Mona opened, you had this kind of creative outpouring, it became a magnet for creative types. So you had chefs and artists and other creatives moving to the city. So the Mona effect, having Mona there itself is a fantastic thing. But it's been an excellent thing for the rest of the city as well, because it's opened the door for other creative types to come and set up galleries and restaurants and things like that. So the Mona effect is real, which I think is a fantastic thing as well.
And the other thing is it's huge. Like it is a very much a full day experience. You need a good, at least I would say 4 or 5 hours to tour through it as well. It's there is a lot to see and do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a couple other things to do that are not in Hobart. And then I also have a list of hotels in Hobart that I want to recommend.
Why don't we get into where to stay a little bit and go through some of our recommendations on that, and then we can come back in a second episode and get through some of the other great things to see.
Okay, yeah, okay. Sounds good. For me, I stayed in 3 different places just on this very recent trip. One of the places I had stayed before, and they're very much, all 3 of them, kind of in keeping with this creative spirit that we've been talking about with Mona, especially the first one that I want to talk about, which is Mac. I'm gonna say Mac 01. It's MACQ and then 01, and it's a storytelling hotel. So it's a beautiful 4 or 5-star hotel. It's right on the harbor. Beautiful views of the water, of the city. So it would be a wonderful hotel just on its own. And I had a suite that was really remarkable. It had a big, huge balcony that had almost like a lawn. I don't think it was real grass, but you could, sit out there and just watch the ships and the boats coming and going. It was incredible. But the focus of the hotel that really sets it apart is that it is a storytelling hotel. And so they have certain criteria that include quirkiness, resilience, strength, and just colorful characters that they focus on. And each room in the hotel focuses on a different character. I think mine was like, I may be wrong on this, but it was like an engineer who helped build a pivotal bridge. I think the first time I stayed there, it was like the tavern keeper, this renowned tavern keeper. And each of the rooms has themed on that character. So they have all these rooms on all these different characters and plaques that describe the character and what makes them special. And then also in some cases, even artifacts from their life. So it's almost like a little museum that's right in the hotel, right in your room in some cases. And then they employ resident storytellers, which I think is just genius. And it's included in the price of your stay. And you meet at a certain time. I think it's 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And they will tell you stories related to the hotel, stories related to the pier, the marina, and you actually go out on a complimentary walking tour of the central part of Hobart, and you learn so much about the city. So I love that they carry that whole theme through to the actual storytelling. They actually have people telling stories, taking you out. That's one of my 2 favorites in central Hobart. I'll talk about the other one, and then I have a third hotel that is just outside of Hobart. So I do want to talk about that one as well. The second one is the Tasman, which is really one of the finest hotels in the world. I mean, it is a true upscale 5-star hotel that, you could plunk that down in New York City or Sydney or Paris, and it would still be one of the best hotels in the city. And it just happens to be in Hobart, 2 blocks from the waterfront. They have 3 buildings. They have a brand new kind of pavilion building that's very shiny and brings a lot of the natural light in. They have an Art Deco building, and then the kind of the heart and soul of the hotel is a 19th century heritage building that used to be a hospital. So it definitely, I would like to reassure everyone, it doesn't feel like a hospital anymore. It feels like a beautiful hotel, but you can still see the lines. I had 2 separate stays there, one in the newer wing, which in this beautiful suite with just wonderful views. But the first stay that I had there was in the heritage building, and the contours, I don't know what my room had been. It was a small suite. But the contours, you walked in, you had kind of a little office sitting room and then a bedroom, and it was clear that it had been used for a different purpose and then returned into a suite. And it was beautiful and comfortable and all those things that you want from a 5-star hotel, great linens and great service, but still had the character, from back to the 19th century. I have a note here that just says amazing service. And so I can't remember, a couple of things that I needed, whether it was like a couple extra pillows. I kind of judge hotels sometimes, like how long does it take for them to bring the pillows? I think I called and the pillows were there in 2 minutes or whatever. But, and do you want me to dive into my third one, which is just outside Hobart?
Why don't we save that for our next episode where we come back and talk a little bit about all the things outside of Hobart to see and do in Tasmania. I will throw out one. I was actually scheduled to stay in the Tasman when we were in Hobart, but we changed at the last minute because we found a great Airbnb that was about 170-year-old pub that had been completely gutted and redone, but keeping a lot of the character of the pub and a lot of elements of it within, and definitely keeping the historic character of the building and converted it into this beautiful, really modern design Airbnb as well. So I'll definitely throw if I can find the link to that one, I'll throw it in the show notes and on our website as well if people are looking for a good Airbnb to stay on. But yeah, the Tasman, if I remember correctly too, I think is also a Marriott Bonvoy property. So it's also one that stay on points potentially as well.
Yeah, exactly. Tons of character and autograph collection, beautiful hotel. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that probably gives people a good jumping off point for Hobart. But of course, there is way more to see and do in Tasmania than Hobart. So,
but we haven't talked about where to eat yet, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. We have not.
Yeah. I got three in Hobart. Do you want me just to dive into those ones?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it. So the first is a place called Aloft, which is right on the harbor. Again, super fresh seafood. I would recommend people sit at the bar. You're not going to get the water views if you're sitting at the bar, but you can sit at the bar. It's one of these restaurants that has a long kind of horseshoe-shaped bar, and you can sit there and you can have your meal there. And the chefs, they do a lot of very kind of creative upscale things. with local ingredients. And you can chat with the chefs and you can say, hey, what are you doing there? I mean, I tried not to talk to them too much, because they had a job to do, preparing all these meals. Very friendly chefs, very creative chefs. And so my recommendation at a loft is to sit at the bar. But the other one that I would recommend in Hobart, and again, this is a pronunciation here I believe it's Schole. It's Schole. And it's really an innovative restaurant. It's fairly new. I believe it's open in the last year. It's in a former candy shop. And if you were to walk by, if you didn't know it was a restaurant, and it is marked as a sign, it's marked as a restaurant, you would still think it was just a storefront, like a regular kind of old school downtown storefront. Everyone sits around one big table. I can't remember how many they seat max, but it's somewhere around a dozen. They have a rotating menu of fresh ingredients. So the night that I was there, I went back, I had taken a picture of the menu. So we had wild venison tartare, we had roasted king oyster, and it's a tasting menu, multi-course, 6-8 courses, something like that. And so you get that wonderful combination of, fresh local ingredients. The night that we were there, the owners were there. I think they are there most nights. So you can talk to them about their concept for the restaurant and the preparation and their producers and all that kind of stuff. But then also you get the experience of talking to your fellow diners. And I always love people telling the story about how they found out about the restaurant and, what adventures they've had in whatever, in Tasmania so far. So that's always a fun experience. So those are my two. I have two more, but I'll save those for our next episode.
Well, I completely forgot about where to eat. So I'm glad you reminded me, Tim, because there is one that really stands out. I was quickly Googling to remember the name of it here as you were talking, because there was a place that we loved when we were there, a spot called the Hanging Garden. I don't know if you ever had a chance to go there or not when you were through Hobart. Really cool spot. It's right in the central business district. It's this kind of outdoor, multi-tiered beer garden / food hall / live music venue. Really cool. It's right in the center of the city. Very busy happening place on a weekend. One of the great things if you're traveling with teens, sometimes it can be hard to find a place you can go with them where you get live music and kind of cool stuff they might like that they're allowed to get into. This was one that they could, and it had a mix of places that did really good, like Neapolitan pizza. They had an Asian that did really authentic Southeast Asian food, multiple different food stalls throughout this outdoor multi-level kind of beer garden. Really cool spot.
Sounds amazing. And of course, Salamanca. We talked about Salamanca already. Pick any place in Salamanca. It's going to be great, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have a can't miss?
If there is a can't miss, I mean, I guess Salamanca Market would be it for me. If I was going to plan a trip to Hobart, it would be around the market for sure.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to make my can't miss a storytelling walking tour with Mac 01. And I'm not sure if you can do them if you're not staying there, but you really do get a lot of insights on the city that you wouldn't get otherwise. So this has been a great episode because I love Hobart so much, and it's just taken me right back to one of my happy places in the world. So I've really enjoyed chatting with you about Hobart.
Always love catching up with you on some of our favorite destinations around the world. Although we got into Hobart today, we mentioned there is a lot more to see and do in Tasmania. So we are going to come back in another episode just after this and get into some of our favorite things to see and do around the island outside of Hobart as well.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Tim.
Luxury flights and hotels can be had for free. The world of points and miles sounds too good to be true, but it's actually real, but only if you know what you're doing.
On Frequent Miler on the Air, Greg and I'm Nick, discuss all the ways to earn points and miles and use them for outsized value.
Join us every Friday for our full episodes and every Tuesday for our quick, single-topic coffee break episodes.
See you there.
Travel doesn't just happen when you get on a plane. I'm Pauline Fromer, and on the Fromer's Travel Show, we explore not just where to go, but how to bring travel into your everyday life through books, shows, and stories that shift your perspective, plus insights on smart destinations, timely trends, and interviews with the people shaping the way we explore. Find us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or voyescape.com.